Joining us now, Bob Rae, former Canadian ambassador to the United Nations. Thanks for being with us today.
Thank you. Good to be with you.
That meeting from the Security Council was at the request of Colombia, and many members expressed concern about the precedent that this move by the United States sets. What do you make of it?
Well, I think any unilateral step by a member state that directly affects the president of another country is going to raise a lot of flags at the United Nations. I mean, that's inevitable. It's Article 2 of the Charter is very clear. Lots of precedents for saying that you don't do these things. The Americans have their reasons, and many people in the region are deeply concerned about the instability created by the Maduro regime. But I think it's from an international law point of view, it's challenging. And there's a second question, which is what happens now? What is the real plan? Listening to commentary over the weekend from the Trump administration, it's not completely clear how they think things are going to unfold with respect to the transition to democracy, the respect for the will of the Venezuelan people. We don't think the election that elected President Maduro and his vice president was legitimate. The government at the time, our government didn't. The American government at the time did not. So there are a lot of issues. And then there's the question of the oil, which is equally concerning from an international legal perspective. So all these things are, I think, concerns that'll be worked through. Of course, the Americans have a veto on the Security Council, so it'll be a discussion, but it won't necessarily be a decision being made by the Security Council.
If we look back at what happened this past Saturday, the U.S. Moving into Venezuela, capturing the president, I mean, we had a dictator clinging to power now for 2 subsequent elections. Was this the right thing to do, to remove him?
Well, I think the conclusion, you can say, well, that's the right conclusion. It's all a question of ends and means, right? We've all been taught at school that the end doesn't necessarily justify the means. But I think that's an issue that's going to be settled in American courts right now, because the Americans have agreed that this will become part of an American legal process. America is a country where legal institutions are taken seriously, and where there will be opportunities to debate a lot of to hear out the arguments on all sides. I think the other point that has to be made, though, is what is the longer term impact here exactly? What is the plan? And how is this plan supposed to go forward? And that's where I think there will be a lot of questions that are, I think, going to be equally important, even greater importance than the question of what took place on Saturday. It's not only what happens on Saturday, it's Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday into the future that we got to be thinking about all the time as we look at the instability that is now there and the implications that it has for the region and for every member state. If it's okay to do what the Americans did, then a lot of other dictatorships in the world will be saying, well, but maybe we can do the same thing. And that's where I think you have to worry about the precedent that's been set, and gets set in these circumstances.
Well, let's talk about that precedent, because Trump himself over the weekend doubled down on this and said, you need to be on alert. Countries like Mexico and Colombia, how concerned should Latin America be that Trump may just do this again?
Why would it only be Latin America?
Fair enough. Greenland also on alert.
Well, Canada. I mean, where does this apply to? I mean, who does it apply to, and in what circumstances? I mean, what is this new doctrine? A lot of things have happened since James Monroe was president of the United States, like several world wars and the Charter of the United Nations. You can't just, there's got to be a rule of law here that's got to be applied. And if we abandon the rule of law in the name of some, power struggle between great powers, we know where that ends. World War I, World War II. We're not going back there. And so You can't just grab other people's territory and run other people's industries and expect everybody else to just say nothing. It's problematic and it's difficult. And in particular, I think it's something that's going to be discussed these next 2 days in Paris, where we're talking about Ukraine and about what President Putin has done and the damage that his attitude has taken. And we've been in the forefront of people saying what Putin has done is unacceptable and wrong because of the rule of law, because of the fact that aggression against another country is not acceptable. So there's a lot of things that have to be talked about in a very candid way among all member states and allies. I think it's going to be as challenging a moment as we've faced in many, many, many decades.
Bob Rae, former Canadian ambassador to the United Nations, appreciate your time very much.
Thank you.